that just occurred down in Fort Lauderdale. Lord, I know our hearts are with them. And so, Lord, we thank you for intervening. Lord, we thank you for the peace that you bring to us in our lives. And God, we just thank you for our city, Port St. Lucie, Lord. We thank you for the leadership here. God, we thank you that they work so diligently and so hard. And Father, I pray that 2017 is full of great things. Lord, I pray your blessing will abide upon our city and upon our county and upon our leadership here that is here this evening. In your name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor O'Neill. We'd like to next recognize our presentation of colors from the Treasure Coast High School Air Force Junior ROTC.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red the bombs bursting in air gave proof through thy minds that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
President Sophia, and she hit high notes that I couldn't even begin to touch. Please join me in pledging allegiance. I pledge allegiance Order, arms. Forward, arms. Color, hold. Right, haste. Order, color, arch. Forward, arms. Honor guard, hold. Orders, colors. Forward, arch. So every person in this room tonight is special. Unfortunately, I can't name each and every one of you, but a number of you are elected officials. You're appointed to positions in both city, county government, other governmental bodies. And I want to introduce a number of folks who are here, starting with our City Commission, Mayor Orvek's family is here. Would y'all mind standing? I know he'll introduce you a little bit later. Thank you very much. Councilmember John Carvelli. Councilmember Jolene Caraballo. Councilmember Shannon Martin. And Councilmember Stephanie Morgan. From the County Commission, we have Linda Bartz. Chris Zendowski. County Administrator Howard Tipton. From Martin County Commissioner Doug Smith. From the City of Fort Pierce, Mayor Linda Hudson. From the school board member Kathleen Hensley. Former City Council member Jane Rowley. Catherine Thomas is here on behalf of Gail Harrell, Representative Gail Harrell. Dr. and Mrs. Houghton from Torrey Pines. Dr. Greg Wellmaker from Torrey Pines. Mark Gray from Barfly Ventures. We'll hear more about Mark later. Fred Cook. You're good, Fred. Thank you. Buddy Emerson, Fire Chief for the St. Lucie County Fire District. Patricia Christensen, former City Council member. This is a very special honor. Melody Kirsch, the Miss Florida Junior Team. Melody? And Todd Mowery from the St. Lucie County Commission. As I mentioned, everyone in the room is special. We greatly appreciate your being here this afternoon, and it is an honor for us as your city staff, or your members of your city council, that you chose to attend the city council meeting and this annual State of the City. So it's my pleasure to introduce Mayor Greg Orvek. Mayor Orvek has spent over 18 years in local government, ranging from a planner to a community redevelopment agency director to assistant city manager and city manager. We are very fortunate that Mayor Orvek has chosen a different route. I'm really fortunate. As our mayor, he has great vision and leadership for the community in a time when, as all of us know, it's difficult to be in local government, certainly difficult to lead large organizations and to really set a tone for a community that is one of the best, if not the best, in the state of Florida. So Mayor Orvek, we thank you and appreciate you very much.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Vice Mayor Martin, council members Morgan, Carvelli, Caraballo, distinguished guests, my fellow Port St. Luckies. What an honor to be with you tonight to present the State of the City message, my second since taking office in November of 2014. It's always good to start out with thank yous. So let me express my gratefulness, my gratitude for my family who you met earlier. I couldn't do it without them. We talk about Team PSL here, that's Team O. So I love you guys and thank you. I'm also thankful for the city team led by our new city manager, Russ Blackburn, and our our new city attorney. I call him Reg, but formally he's Reginald Ossington. He's got a name to go with that title of attorney. And then all of our partners who are here tonight, thank you so much for being here, whether you're from the school board, the fire district, the county, my good friend, the mayor of the Sunrise City, Linda Hudson. Thank you so much for being here. And watching Russ, I know that that's a dangerous game once you start getting into name dropping, because you always miss somebody in a room this full, and don't want to leave anyone out, because this is a great team in this room. But at the end of 2015, with that first State of the City, we talked about hope being back, about once again being a city on the rise. And so now it's time to check in. How many of you had a good 2016? Yeah? How many of you think 2017 will be as good or even better? I hope you feel good. You should feel good. You know why? The elections are finally over. I'm just kidding. Kind of. You should feel good because that being on the rise has continued for most of us. And in many ways, our city is doing better than it has in more than a decade. And if you wanted to say, we're back, baby, you could. In fact, why don't we try that all together? We're back, baby. We're back, baby. Nah, I think we do it one more time. We're back, baby. We're back, baby. That's right. And not only are we back, we are on track for something more, something special. I truly believe that we can be that shining city on a hill. We have a plan. It's called the strategic plan. And that'll help us take us to where we want to go, to being that shining city on a hill. As long as this city council, our staff, and our community work hard, work smart, and work together. Now, I know what you might be saying. You might say, Greg, how do we really know we're back? How do we know this isn't the latest in fake news? Or that your assertions haven't been influenced by state-sponsored Russian computer hackers? We know because we can go old school and use those old-fashioned notions of facts, logic, and reason to prove it. Now, the thing about facts, where's Christina Seeberger? The thing about facts, logic, and reason is they often take more than 140 characters to communicate. It takes more than a sound bite, especially when you're talking about the past, present, and future of a city of 180,000 citizens, 125 square miles, 1,000 employees, and a $500 million budget. Yeah, that's $500 million with the B dollar budget. And no one here signed up for the multi-day version of this speech, so I'm going to have to hit the high points and focus on our most important issues. But if anyone out there wants to go deep, there's an open invitation to you to contact me at mayor@cityofpsl.com. Call the office, call your district council person, because we're all equally committed to helping you get the good information that's at the foundation of meaningful public policy discussions, because that's what leads to a better Port St. Lucie. But for those of you who are comfortable with the overview and are happy that you're getting the Cliff Notes version, don't be scared that I'm going to start with the Declaration of Independence. And yes, I mean the Declaration of Independence. I began the preparations for the State of the City address by reflecting on the Declaration of Independence, because it always helps to put us in touch with what government in America ought to be doing. The Declaration states that all men are created equal. And in our minds, let's just replace the word men with people, all right? That they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among people, deriving their power from the consent of the governed. Further, as you may know, it states that people have the right to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to effect their safety and happiness. And bingo, bango, There it is, right from our founding fathers, safety and happiness. That's what it's all about. That's what we're doing together is all about, safety and happiness. Now, before you, or probably more likely someone on the... Is that it already, Jane? Holy smokes, I didn't even get through the intro. But probably more likely it would be someone on the internet. Before someone would say that, hold on a second, I'm not happy. Government make me happy. Let's remember that 1700s happiness is today's prosperity, and that government is here to enable your pursuit of that prosperity, not hand it to you. So how is our city doing with safety and facilitating the pursuit of prosperity? Let's take them one at a time, starting with safety. We have the safest large city in Florida, again, for the 12th time in 14 years, based upon Florida Department of Law Enforcement crime statistics. That's right. Let's give you a round of applause. In addition to that championship belt, all right, Safeco.com recognized the city as having the second lowest property crime rate in the South. Value Penguin named us the 4th safest place in Florida. And a fun little surprise, Allstate ranked us the 7th safest large city for driving. Personal and safety, I heard some laughter on that one. Personal safety and crime are usually the first things that come to mind when we talk about safety. But there's more to it, isn't there? We take things like safe drinking water for granted. But places like Flint remind us how proud we should be of our state-of-the-art utility that provides us with excellent drinking water. We're so focused on finding ways to upgrade our stormwater system in order to keep nutrients and fresh water out of the river and to handle those tropical rainstorms we get, that we sometimes forget that homes being swept away in rivers and rooftop rescues are a seasonal occurrence for some areas of our country. Which is not to say that disasters can't strike, because we know all too well that they can and do. We were very fortunate to be spared by Hurricane Matthew this year, but our emergency response team here at the city and also countywide showed us that they were ready and that we're performing at a high level to keep us safe, that they're there for us when duty calls. Now, I mentioned that Allstate recognizes us for being a safe city in which to drive, but we know that our roads are for more than driving, don't we? In PSL, one of our legacy issues is sidewalks. Our original master developer didn't build them. And with 1,000 lane miles of roadways, we have a lot of catching up to do. And to borrow a little syntax from Yoda, you guys know Yoda, catching up we are. And if you drive around the city, you'll see that we're finally hitting critical mass. We just celebrated the 10-year anniversary of our sidewalk program. We've invested $9 million. We've built over 25 miles of roadways, sidewalks, in addition to those roadway projects. So 25 miles of sidewalks out there, and when you're on California, Del Rio, Cameo, Tulip, Rosser, Savona, Bayshore, Selvets, now you're seeing how all of these sidewalks connect and are forming a network. And there's many more ways for me to show how we're getting the job done on being a safe city. But given that I'm just on page 2 of my notes here, and I got a few pages to get through still. Oh boy, we better make coffee for Jane, all right? I'm going to get to prosperity. Now, prosperity is not as easily measured as safety, but there are a number of indicators for us to take note of. I'd like to start with population. In America, the best country on earth, we have the freedom to move where we want. No one's frog marching us into a camp somewhere, thank goodness. Therefore, to see our population continue to grow is the ultimate indicator that we offer something special, something that people want. Over this last year, we grew into the 8th most populous city in Florida. And even though we've gone through some tough times, our population has grown over 9% since 2010. Is there anything more connected to prosperity and the American dream than owning your own home? It's one of the biggies, right? Right up there with mom and apple pie. We have a greater percentage of homeowner-occupied units than any other large city in the country, and actually one of the highest of any size municipality in the country. 73%. And for as much as we hear about millennials sleeping on couches and staying with their parents, in 2016, Smart Assets recognized PSL for the highest millennial homeownership rate in the country. Now, I don't want to get crazy. I know this is going to sound crazy. But do you think millennials might be learning something from their elders in Port St. Lucie? While we're talking about third-party rankings, WalletHub named us one of the best large cities to start a business and one of the best Florida cities in which to retire. Livability.com said we're one of the best places to live in Florida. The Milken Institute ranked us as being in the top quartile of best performing large cities in the U.S. 24/7 Wall Street recognized PSL as fourth fastest growing housing market. Christina, could you read these? Oh, you didn't come. All right. All right. And speaking of housing, we'll crunch some of the data available here at the city. Our number of single-family housing permits went up 30% year over year. And we're nearing our boom-excluded historical average. For the fourth year in a row, our property values went up. We saw about a 9% increase this last year. The size of our economy is growing, as reflected in sales tax data. Tourism's broken 2 records in a row. The unemployment rate has stayed steady around 5%. If you look back 2 years, it was 8%. We had $95 million worth of new construction going to the tax roll, which is the highest in 4 years. Our average wages are up. All right, so that's about 14 indicators. If you're still not buying it, I got a strange argument. How about the number of centenarians we have running around here? I owe an outstanding shout out to Bart Alvarez, who turned 102 years young on November the 9th. He was one of our first residents in PSL, and he gave us our deputy city clerk, April Stonicus. He's not here, but could we give him a round of applause because you're going to watch on TV? Now, here in attendance, I believe that we have one Melvin R. Brown, a World War II veteran, who turned 103 years young on January the 6th. Let's give him a standing O. Happy belated birthday, Mr. Brown. The greatest generation right there, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I hope that rundown suggests to you, as it does me, that we're moving in the right direction. We're back on track, and we're being propelled to something special. But if you're still not convinced, how about some case studies? What about overcoming the loss of QVC with the addition of McKesson? What about the selling of the Liberty Medical Building on US 1 for a $1.4 million profit and facilitating the expansion of teleperformance? Folks, we always have to be fair. My mom taught us life is a two-way street. If we're going to be critical for bad economic development and bad real estate deals, and we're going to remind ourselves every day for the rest of our lives, let's remember those positives just as much. How about the backfilling of that former teleperformance space with iVox Solutions, who's just now moving to Port St. Lucie? How about Expert Shutters? We talked about them a little bit in 2015. They started in a garage. Now they just opened up a $2.1 million manufacturing facility in Port St. Lucie. They started in a PSL garage. They went from groundbreaking to ribbon cutting in 10 months. Now, they're the third largest manufacturer of those shutters, keeping us safe from hurricanes. How about Ross Mixing, one of the world's premier mixing companies? Received approval for its next expansion. I believe the 5th one, right here in PSL, Village Green Industrial Area. You got Kaiser University's new campus in Tradition. And then speaking about Tradition, how about that single largest economic impact, the ongoing expansion of Tradition Hospital? Who's seen that? Hopefully not from the inside. But the next phase is adding 170,000 square feet and 3 stories to the facility. And when it's completed, it's scheduled for early 2018, it'll double its size with an additional 90 inpatient rooms. And it's kind of the gift that keeps giving. It's an economic engine because in addition to the 600 new jobs that were already created there with 45,000 or more annual income, in addition to the temporary construction jobs, which number about 1,000, that new expansion will create an additional 400 jobs with an average annual salary of $45,000 or more. And you're really starting to see the creation of something special at the Tradition Center for Innovation. And wait, there's more. If you've seen, in addition to the hospital, you have the office building going up. Those are additional jobs in value. And what you may not know is that in addition to that office building, there's already another one being pre-leased. So right after that first one is done, you're going to see another one go up. And that's really going to be an engine that drives us into the future. Now, some of us get excited about quant, these analytics and pure job creation, but I've also learned from a Facebook campaign on Costco and the never-ending question of, is a Cheesecake Factory coming, that this community gets excited about beloved retail brands. And I never want to make the mistake of thinking one is too big or too small. So we have with the long-awaited Panera open in Tradition. We've got the Aldi's on Gatlin. Who likes coffee? Anyone like coffee? You want only so-so? We have 2 Starbucks in the pipeline. Who's been to Cheddar's? Recovery Sports Bar is going up. I know it's a gas station, but everyone's seen Wawa, right? That's why I can never assume. And over the weekend, after I posted 6,000 hits, there's a Chick-fil-A most likely going to roost in St. Lucie West. So now there's a bunch of other brands coming to the city, but one I wanted to really spotlight here at State of the City was Hopcat. Did anyone see our Hopcat? Hopcat is a special brand. It's a national brand, but with limited locations. And they picked PSL. And if you saw the elevation and the site plan, the preliminary site plan, you know that it's probably going to be a go-to location, over 100 beers on tap. It's just one of those things that's going to bring the community together right at the town square of Tradition. And I wondered if Mark Gray could stand up and take a bow. Now, the reason why we give Mark Gray a bow is because he is a local Port St. Lucie resident, and he's the champion of Hopcat. He's part of the team that's bringing it here, and it's really, attributable to his leadership that of all the places in the country that Hopcat could have gone, they came to PSL. And this is a situation where it's more than just thanking Mark. It's about recognizing that anytime we succeed, if we peel it back and look, we're going to see that there's a local champion involved. We can't wait for other people to bring us to our future, to be that city on the hill. It takes us and it takes local champions putting the work in. So thank you, Mark Gray, and thank you to Hopcat for calling Port St. Lucie home. All right, so some good stuff going on. That's good. Jane? Yeah. Good.
Now you're okay, Jane.
So that's kind of a snapshot of where we've been and where we are. And now we're at the portion of the state of the city where we need to talk about where we're going. Even when we talk about safety, where we have the championship belt and we have the accolades, safety is one of those things where we can never grow complacent. We have to be ever vigilant, and we have to maintain and enhance what we've had. So I hope that working with the council and fulfilling our strategic plan, that we're going to, in this year and the years ahead, we're going to continue to work on the appropriate regulation of sober homes. We need to help the people who are seeking help. We cannot have people who are seeking treatment from addiction go right into the teeth of a predator. And at the same time, it has to be okay for us to maintain the quality of our single-family neighborhoods, because the therapeutic benefit provided by sober homes is created by the purity of that single-family house and neighborhood. It's that very character of living as a family in a high-quality single-family neighborhood that produces the benefit that drives people to go seek it. If neighborhoods become commercial, if they become transient, if they become multifamily, they no longer provide that benefit. As I've already mentioned, and I'm going to get a little bit more detail, this year we're going to be working on our sidewalk priority plan. So we've had our 10-year anniversary. It's a great time to evaluate what we've done and then what we're going to do in the next 10 years. And council, one of the things that I'm going to push for, I always look to my vice mayor when I say I'm going to push for something. One of the things I'm going to push for is the build-out plan. Now that we've taken a big bite out of building sidewalks in PSL, what should it look like long-term when we're done? Let's be outcome-oriented. I'm going to look at my vice mayor again. And for everyone's benefit, and we're seeing this play out nationally, we need to continue our conversations on body cameras, and we're going to push for the introduction of body cams in Port St. Lucie. Now, you mentioned, I mentioned, that we have a strategic plan. Commissioner Mowry, do you know what it is? Do you know what the vision statement is?
For the city?
Yes.
It's, no.
Commissioner Mowry is always a good sport, and I appreciate him. Port St. It's the 2030 strategic plan, and PSL is the safe, beautiful, and friendly city for all ages. We introduced Fred at the beginning. It's Fred. He has a park named after him. It has great neighborhoods, top quality educational opportunities for lifelong learning, a diverse local economy and jobs, convenient mobility options, and leisure opportunities for an active lifestyle. It has tradition, the St. Lucie River, a natural Florida experience, and a vibrant city center, US 1, St. Lucie West, your hometown. Now, each of those words in our vision statement, words like safe and top quality, are more than adjectives and nouns. They're not jargon. They're specifically defined principles to be fulfilled through enumerated goals and actions. And we'll go through that thing another day. In fact, we're going to have a workshop coming up in about a month or so on that strategic plan. But that strategic plan defines our vision, and it provides the blueprint to bring it to life, all right, to take us to that destination we want to get to. Now, I don't have the time to go through all the priorities. I have to do the tough work of picking a few. And I'd like to start with Crosstown. Crosstown is our #1 project. It's a project that the city has been trying to carry out for coming up on 40 years. You know, so to me, Crosstown is more than a project. It's a referendum on our character as a community. We're talking about being great, about being excellent, about being the city on a hill. You cannot be those things and fail after 40 years. This is a defining moment for Port St. Lucie. If we're going to be the community we know we can be, then we have to build Crosstown. It's not a question. And luckily, One of the highlights of the last 60 days is that we finally received the South Florida Water Management District permit to start the construction across town. Will people continue to challenge it? Probably. We're going to have to continue to win. And it's already started. Just for the record, the Gopher Tortoise relocations and the utility relocates have started. We're planning for the real groundbreaking and ceremony in March. And staff will give you 900 and something days from March. But the challenge from the mayor, and I hope from the council, will be figure out how to build it by the end of 2018. Get her done. Could anyone who's in favor of Crosstown just say, get her done? Get her done. Yeah. All right, well, there's always one in every crowd. Now, I'm going to call this the two-headed dragon because we're trying to focus our priorities. And when we talk about economic development, some projects often come to mind, VGTI and City Center. This is the year where we have to come up with a plan, even if we can't get there in 1 year or 2 years on something like City Center, which will take multiple years to build out. And the situation may improve with the completion of Crosstown. We need to have the plan for both of those. We need to turn VGTI from an asset that's dark, that we as taxpayers who never expected to pay for it are paying for it. We need to turn it into as many jobs, and we need to turn it into as much value as possible, as soon as possible. So that's one of those things that we have to do in 2017. So can you tell us to get her done? Get her done. Same thing with City Center. City Center is a little bit more complicated than VGTI because there is a receiver, SEC appointed receiver over it. And then after that, tax certificates might come into play. I don't want to go too far into the weeds, but we have some legal rigmarole to get through. So we'll keep working on that. But we need that plan. We owe you an action plan. That would be the product for this year. Tell us to get her done. Get her done. The river. All right, so for me, just for me personally, there's 3 issues to focus on. Being safe, clean, and green has got to happen by itself. Knocking down the debt, tax reform, those kinds of things, they just have to happen. But for the 3, the river has to be one. Economic development, and because of economic development, schools, which I'm going to get to in a second, and the other being the river. What's great about Port St. Lucie? A lot of things are great, but we are the safest large city in Florida. We provide value. We're affordable. We have a number of amenities for what it costs to live here. But at the end of the day, we still have what makes Florida, Florida. And a big part of that is our St. Lucie River. And our community cannot be number 1 if our river is full of number 2. And there's just no other way. There's just no other way to put it. So we are currently doing a microbial tracking study because if you look at the Department of Health data over the last 36 or so months, 2/3 of those months there's been a public health advisory up. And that's not acceptable. We can't pursue putting the port in Port St. Lucie and Riverwalk and waterfront restaurants and historical museums on the water next to the botanical gardens if we can't touch our water. That has to be done. So we got to find where it's coming from, and if it's coming from within our boundaries, we will continue our track record of fixing it, of getting her done. Because in Port St. Lucie, don't forget that we've already carried out the largest septic tank to sewer conversion in the United States. We know how to get her done. And along those lines of getting her done, we can't continue to wait for the Lake O discharge problem to solve itself. If it was easy, it would have been done years ago. And Instead of just waiting for that project, let's do what we can locally, and that's where the McCarty Ranch water farming project comes in. I'm asking for your help, the whole community's help on that project. This is a legacy issue. If you've seen any of our releases, no pun intended, on the McCarty Ranch project, we can take the McCarty Ranch Extension project purchased by the utility and turn that 2,000 acres into a water farm, which will provide another source of water for our residents to drink, so that when we're 450,000 people, as anticipated, the water supply is already provided. And that's important in itself. But we will pull that water from the C-23 canal, one of the main contributors of water to the St. Lucie River and the Indian River Lagoon in our basin. We can divert up to 21% of the water, that water that we're throwing away right now. That we're throwing so much away that we're ruining the most biodiverse estuary in North America. We could take that water, we could clean it, we could drink it in the future, we could turn it into recreation, ecotourism. That's something that we have to do. Get her done. Good job. Then lastly, you might have just seen the op-ed. It's in our strategic plan, and the council's taken this up at a workshop last month. If you asked me, after about 20 years in government now, it flies by, what the #1 priority would be for a better Port St. Lucie, it would be our schools and education. Because that path to prosperity goes through, whether you want to call it a pipeline or a staircase, of taking our children and turning them and transforming them into productive, prosperous adults, our future. In St. Lucie County, we celebrate the school district who just set an all-time high for graduation rate. And now we look forward in working with you in determining how we can translate that increase in graduation rate to more A-rated schools in Port St. Lucie and all of St. Lucie County, and how, given that education is such a meaty topic, taking third grade reading scores as a proxy for the quality of our education system, how we can go from a state average, which is 54% of students reading on grade level in third grade, and only 46% in St. Lucie County. How can we bring that to where it needs to be that shining city on a hill? That is the #1 priority in my estimation. And it's not something that we could just turn to the school district for. It's not something that we could just turn to the city for, or say, well, it's the parents' job only. If we want to be a better community, we'll figure out how to make it happen. And fortunately, very fortunately, there are increasing ways for us to do that. I thank the school district, also the City of Port St. Lucie, Mayor Hudson, County Administrator Tipton, and others for participating, and especially Big Brothers, Big Sisters, for the St. Lucie SOARS program, where through 1 hour a week, you can engage in reading mentoring. And I actually met with my little today. So I personally went out there and established contact with, I don't want to give his name away, but he's a really cool little guy. And 1 hour a week, that's all it takes. And if the mayor of the 8th most populous city in Florida can do it with a family, you can do it. And if you can't, please find someone else who can, or find money so that we could bring an AmeriCorps volunteer or someone else in. All right. So I know that it's been a long time. So I got to get out of here, Jane. This is the little lightning round, all right? The what if game. So what if we kept enhancing what we've already done well and came up with a plan that lowers taxes and a debt over a 5-year period rather than over decades? What if we partner with St. Lucie County Schools to spread excellence from specific schools to an entire system of excellence? What if, to help our St. Lucie County schools, economic development efforts, children and community, thousands of you, our citizens and champions, join me in that Big Brothers Big Sisters program or the Boys and Girls Club or another proven program? What if we partnered with the county, Fort Pierce, and the TPO to expedite infrastructure projects to connect our highway system to the Treasure Coast Airport and the Port of Fort Pierce? What if we partnered with our EDC and all stakeholders to implement an integrated strategic economic development plan? What if these same stakeholders came together to revive a higher education learning plan that delivers a Treasure Coast State University, even if it takes a decade? Because we have an amazing state college, Indian River State College, 2 years in a row, Aspen Award finalists. And they might even win this year, right? So let's root for them. But they can only give a limited number of bachelors out. They can't give masters and they can't give doctorates. How are we going to feed our growing health industry, our healthcare sector, our biotech, if we're not producing masters and doctorates locally? So what if we implement our strategic plan? Can you imagine if those what ifs turned into yes we can or we got her done? I can, and I know that we can do it. I know that if we work hard, work smart, and work together on this plan and don't quit, we will not just imagine the results, we're going to live them. We will be that city on the hill, that shining city on the hill. And we're lucky to live on the Treasure Coast, St. Lucie County, and in Port St. Lucie. And I hope that God will continue to bless us, and I hope that He continues to bless you. God bless Port St. Lucie. Thank you.